GS Talks. My name is Gabriela Karaivanova, member of the Berkeley Global Society, Berkeley Law graduate, and legal professional in the field of EU law, competition and international arbitration and litigation. But I'm also very passionate about new technologies and love to think about the challenges we as lawyers face in the intersection of law and technology. It seems that new technologies are very much pushing the boundaries of the existing legal systems, and it is no secret to anyone that machines are getting better and better, where some are incorporating important cognitive abilities as well. The world is changing fast, and the progress in the field of artificial intelligence has been definitely one of the drivers of that change. We at Berkeley Global Society believe that the partnership between scientists and lawyers is crucial in addressing some of the main challenges in the regulation of AI-driven technologies. This is why I am delighted to welcome today our guest speaker, Vaselina Petrova, who holds a PhD from Cambridge University and is about to move to the United States of America to pursue her scientific dreams at Harvard. She will give us her perspective on some of the main issues involved in the development of AI-driven technologies. Hi, Vesi.
Hi, Gabby.
Could you please tell us a little bit more who you are, what do you do, and most importantly, why are you so passionate about artificial intelligence?
My name is Veslina. As you said, I'm originally from Bulgaria, and I came to the UK when I was 16 to study a high school here on a scholarship. But I ended up staying here for 11 years now. I graduated from the University of Edinburgh with a biomedical sciences degree, and I specialized in neuroscience. And then I went to the University of Cambridge, where I pursued my PhD. I only graduated last October, and in my PhD, I was mostly focusing on one question, which is why nerve cells do not repair themselves after injury, such as the spinal cord injury. And I was trying to find new therapies that could improve this regrowth of the nerve cells. I'm very interested in emerging technologies, just like you. And for me, artificial intelligence is obviously a very exciting area because it really overlaps with what I do, and it is neuroscience inspired. So I'm really happy to be here and to discuss some of the main challenges about artificial intelligence.
Great. Thank you very much for being here. We are honored. So according to one of the definitions, artificial intelligence is the ability of a machine to display human-like capabilities such as reasoning, learning, planning, and creativity. So my first question to you would be, would you agree with that definition? And as a neuroscientist as you are, would you confirm that a machine could eventually be trained in creativity and perform creative activities?
Yeah, I very much agree with that definition. To me, artificial intelligence is any computational system which is capable of intelligent behavior. And that pretty much describes what you said: learning, encoding new information, making predictions. Sorry, can you repeat the second part of your question?
Yes, I was just curious, would you confirm that a machine could eventually perform some sort of creative activity, like humans?
Yeah, I can't really confirm this. People are working really hard in trying to make these artificial intelligence systems very human-like, but they're still in the early days, and there is a lot to be done. For example, machines are very good at making calculations and using logic, but when it comes to the really human traits such as empathy and consciousness, imagination, they're still quite far off it. Also, adapting in a new situation, we humans are very good at this, and we can adapt. We can basically use our whole lifetime experience and logic and reasoning, but also emotions in order to make a decision. And machines are good at this, but not as good as humans still. But I do think that they're capable of having some creativity. I don't know if you heard, but several years ago, there is AI-based technology which beat the best human in the world at the Chinese board game called Go. And that was really exciting news because so far no machine has ever been able to beat a human at this game, and this game requires creativity and adjusting and adapting to how the game goes, and this could only mostly be done by humans, but in this one instance the machines were outperforming the best player in the world, which shows that there is room for this, and some technologies are already showing this creativity.
Wow, that's really amazing. I have heard about the chess example. So an AI-driven machine has been able to outperform the best chess player in the world, which is also showing great strategic capabilities. Me personally, I was very, shocked about it. Chess is one of my favorite games, and who knows what the future will offer us with AI powers. So let me now go to my second question. How can you describe the link between neuroscience, the field where you are doing your main research as a scientist, and artificial intelligence, and how exactly those two fields are crossing paths?
So there is a huge overlap between the two fields. As you know, at the beginning, AI was very heavily neuroscience inspired. So in the human brain, there are billions of nerve cells which interconnect with one another, and they form these so-called brain neural circuits. Basically, AI is trying to mimic this computational power of the brain. I think that AI is actually resembling to some sort the operations happening in the brain. But not only the way they're structured, the neuroscience and AI, but also I think that they are interconnected in other ways. For example, AI could greatly contribute to advancing neuroscience. At the moment, a lot of neuroscientists are coming up with huge multimodal data sets that are really hard to analyze by a human. And this is where AI systems come in to help us analyze all this data and come up with earlier, but also more accurate diagnosis of different diseases. And on top of this, as you know, I'm passionate about the field of spinal cord injury. So currently there are some trials showing that we could use artificial intelligence systems in order to bridge the gap where the injury occurs in the spinal cord and basically link the brain and the nerves that connect to your limbs. So basically, I think they not only inspire each other, but they're also really important for the advancement of each other. So neuroscience is important for AI, but also AI is important for neuroscience development.
Thank you very much for your insight. It's indeed a very interesting question because, correct me if I'm wrong, but actually the first scientists who launched the AI field were neuroscientists, which is once again outlining the importance and the how intertwined are those two fields. Mm-hmm. So now, after reading several articles in the field of neuroscience, I could not resist to ask, is it fair to say that inside our brains operates sort of a deep learning algorithm?
So basically, this is a very interesting question, but also a difficult one, because as much as we know about neuroscience, there is also just as much that we don't know. Yes, we could say this. You can imagine a really highly interconnected system within our brains, which is bidirectional and always feeding new information, but also getting feedback and adapting itself, so learning. making predictions. So in a way, yes, we could say that, but there is also so much that we don't understand, as I already mentioned, about consciousness and feelings and emotions, which is key to really understanding what's going on a deeper level in the brain.
Okay, so if I'm getting you right, you feel that emotions are actually an important part of how human brain functions.
Yeah, you could say that. They're one part of what the human brain could do.
Okay, and would it be fair to say that one of the main differences between AI-driven machines and humans is the fact that humans, as we all know, are emotional creatures. And as long as we remain emotional, there will be no room of comparison between human-like individuals and human-like robots, let's say.
Yeah, some robots actually are now being taught how to show emotion or read emotion of human faces, but this is still a work in progress because it's very difficult to do this. You have to include cultural biases, also like other things that that occur between different ethnicities and so on and so forth. So it's very hard to read emotions as a general rule. But if we want one day these artificial intelligence machines to function together or coexist with humans, they need to be capable of this. They need to be capable of reading human emotion and portraying emotions themselves. Some people argue that if we come to this point that machines are capable of emotion, then a lot of professions will not be needed anymore, especially in the medical area, such as doctors and nurses and so on and so forth. But I can argue that this is actually not true. I believe that if we do have these robots to care for terminally ill or chronically ill patients, then that will provide longitudinal and continuous care for these patients. Actually, doctors will have more time more meaningful time to spend with patients. So there is basically two different sides to the story, whether it's good for these artificial intelligence systems to have emotion. But I do believe that if we are to coexist with them, they need to be capable of understanding us like the way we understand them.
That sounds very fair. So thank you very much. Thank you. It's an exciting topic, I think. Talking about humanized robots or humans and the very nature of humans brings us back to main philosophical questions. And it's another debate, I guess, but it's a very interesting one. As with any new technology, the use of AI brings both opportunities and risks. So according to the white paper on artificial intelligence of the European Commission, and I'm quoting here, artificial intelligence will change our lives by improving healthcare, increasing the efficiency of farming, contributing to climate change mitigation and adaptation, improving the efficiency of production systems through predictive maintenance, for instance, and will increase the security and will possibly in many other ways improve human lives, ways that we can only begin to imagine as of now. At the same time, the same white paper outlines some of the main concerns of the European Commission when it comes to artificial intelligence. So the European Commission entails a number of potential risks, such as opaque decision-making, gender-based or other kinds of discrimination, intrusion in our private lives, or being even used for criminal purposes. So after all, we have seen the use of artificial intelligence in the fight against the virus COVID-19. In this case, AI has been used in thermal imaging in airports and elsewhere. In medicine, it can also help recognize infection from computerized tomography lung scans. It has also been used to provide data to track the spread of the disease. Now my questions to you are, first, as a scientist, what makes you optimistic and excited about the current developments in the field of artificial intelligence? And then please respond, what scares you the most in terms of the use of artificial intelligence?
Very interesting questions, thank you. Well, of course, working in research and in the hospital, for me, the most exciting part about artificial intelligence is to do with healthcare. I think it's got enormous potential, not only, as I said, to help us analyze large amounts of data, but also to help us identify disease earlier than we can right now. For example, there's currently some trials where artificial intelligence is able to better predict who will get breast cancer than some physicians. And I find this very exciting because in breast cancer, early treatment is absolutely essential, and this could really change lives. What I'm also excited about is, I didn't mention, but at Cambridge University, I was a Bill Gates scholar. And as you know, one of the big missions of Bill Gates is to abolish poverty and have access to healthcare in underprivileged areas. And I think AI could really help us with this, with the distribution of resources across the planet. And it already is helping in alleviating poverty in some areas. So this is also an area which I'm really passionate about, and I think AI could really have a big impact on this. Lastly, I just have a personal interest in the exploration of space. So this is something that I'm looking forward to seeing what AI could offer in that area. What scares me the most? There are several things. So as I said, we don't really know everything about the brain, and a lot of people are trying to closely mimic AI to the brain. So this could lead to unpredictable outcomes, and I do believe that AI should be regulated in order for this not to happen. But also there is some biases that could occur with AI, because a lot of these algorithms take into consideration pre-existing data, which in one way or another could be biased. And this could...
We will hold that on. Sorry for interrupting you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, anyway, but this is what scares me the most, basically. Things getting out of control, not being regulated properly, and also having bias in the outcomes of some of these algorithms.
So I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I found it extremely interesting, the point that you raised about poverty alleviation. Honestly, I have never heard about it. Could you please give us some examples? I think that our viewers online and the members of BGS will be very interested to learn how how this technology could help people in poverty and solve this huge problem of humanity.
Yeah, so I know of several examples. For one of them is I've read about artificial intelligence using satellite images to identify areas of extreme poverty where the infrastructure is not developed. And then resources are centered into those areas, and that could help for poverty alleviation in the specific regions. But also AI could help find, again, using satellite images or other data, could help identify really suitable areas for agriculture, and agriculture could really improve the region's economic and poverty situation. And other things that I've also read about are educational. So you could use AI-based technologies to educate people in poor areas without the need for extensive infrastructure or or a lot of materials, basically. So there's several ways in which AI is really helping in this area, and I believe there will be even more in the future.
Yes, that's amazing. I'm really very happy to learn about this huge potential behind this technology. And you mentioned you have been a Bill Gates scholar. Could you please tell us more? What were your missions? If it's not confidential, of course. If you signed an NDA agreement.
No. It's just the Bill Gates scholarship is available only at the University of Cambridge for master's and postdoctoral students. And you have to go through a rigorous process to be selected to be a scholar. But basically, the Bill Gates Foundation is really looking for individuals who are driven to not only pursue their degree, but also to help people and make the world a better place. So they're looking for people with purpose and people who really want to make a change. So I'm really extremely honored to be part of this community. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And now I will go to another question. So what do you think? How smart are actually AI-driven devices? Is it possible, for instance, to replicate the functioning of the human brain in technology? And if it is not, what are the biggest strengths of humans which machines would most probably never have? I know you mentioned about emotions. Please feel free to elaborate or give other examples. Thank you.
Yeah, so basically a lot of AI has already managed to replicate very interesting things from human history. For example, AI was able to replicate Rembrandt's paintings or really essential masterpieces of composers such as Mozart. And these were pretty much undistinguishable from the real thing. So you could train AI to produce such masterpieces that require a lot of attention to detail, creativity, and inspiration. So there is a lot that AI can do, but to me, the biggest problem with AI is that I already mentioned emotions, so I'm going to go away from that. But I think as humans, we have something else, which is intuition. So basically, if you imagine someone playing a guitar, you can also play the guitar with your eyes closed. But if you teach AI how to play the guitar, if you put them in a different environment, they might not be that good at it or not good at all. So I think for us, it's very interesting how we adapt to new environments and how we deal with new situations. And I think even though AI is starting to be developed to do this, it's very hard for an algorithm to know how to do this and how to put all these elements together in order to achieve a final goal.
Thank you. Now that you have mentioned intuition, I'm curious, as a scientist, could you please share with us whether scientists are now coming to a conclusion? How is intuition happening? Is this a process in the human brain? Is this another scientific process? And is there any definition to give about what is it, intuition?
I'm afraid I only have a very short answer for you, and that is that we don't really know. A lot of people are working on this at the moment, but I don't think there is one final answer that I can give you. It's a very complex process, so a lot of people are approaching it from different sides. But yeah, we don't really know.
That's fair enough. Don't worry about it. You have time to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Yes, so I know you have already talked about the quality of data used to train AI-driven machines. So now my question is on that topic, which is one of the most important challenges when it comes to regulation of AI-driven technologies. So what is your point of view on critics advancing the argument of biased AI, which is actually replicating existing biases in the data used to train those AI-driven machines?
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of space for criticism when it comes to this. People are learning at the moment by trial and error what really the best way to approach this problem is. But there is definitely pre-existing historical biases in a lot of the data sets that are driven into AI. And for example, some companies try to use AI driven technologies in their hiring process, and they realized they ended up with mostly male candidates because historically these companies had mostly male employees. So AI was just learning from the pre-existing data, creating new biases in the future. Also, there are some other examples in facial recognition that, for example, different facial expressions have different connotations in different cultures. So when trying to gauge human emotion, AI actually pointed out that some ethnicities seem to be less happy or basically not collaborating just because of their facial expression. But these facial expressions in particular cultural context are completely normal. So there is a lot of space for error. But I think one way, and we could avoid this in the future, is to create diverse teams of researchers and engineers who put together these AI technologies, not just to get rid of the gender and ethnic biases, but also socioeconomic status and so on and so forth. But I think the more diverse the input data points are, the more chance we have to get less biased results.
Yes, that definitely makes sense. And what do you think? How is it possible to monitor how diverse is the data used to actually teach machines? Is
Yeah,
it
this is very difficult because not all data is transparent, and I think it's up to the individual companies or governments or whoever is using artificial intelligence to determine how transparent they would like to be in their own process. And I think there should be more push for companies to be as transparent as possible in the way they use AI, what data sets they feed in, and they should regularly review this in order to make sure that these biases do not occur, or if they do occur, to basically find them in time and change that.
Yes, that makes sense. So in its white paper, again, the European Commission identifies several risks inherent to the use of AI technologies when they are embedded in products and services. For example, as a result of a flaw in the object recognition technology, an autonomous car can wrongly, for instance, identify an object on the road and cause an accident involving injuries and material damage. As with the risks to fundamental rights, these risks can be caused by flaws in the design of AI technology or can be related to problems with the availability and quality of the data, again, or to other problems stemming from machine learning. And now I quote the white paper: while some of these risks are not limited to products and services that rely on AI, the use of artificial intelligence may increase or aggravate the risks. So my question to you is, would you agree with that statement of the European Commission? And is the use of AI possibly aggravating the risk of harm?
Um, I think just as anything, even if a human is driving the car, you always have the risks. It's just in the end is a balance between how efficient we can make processes using AI and what the risk is of harm. And I think there will always be a risk in one way or another. There is some really unpredictable situations, but here we have to outweigh the benefits over the costs, I think. And I do agree that artificial intelligence could introduce a higher space for error because it's a very new technology and we still haven't properly developed it. So there is a lot to learn, but I do believe in learning by trial and error. So I do think that in the future, these things will be smoothened out, and we'll be able to rely more on artificial intelligence and trust the technology.
I see, I see. So you think that it's fair to say that AI-driven machines are actually somehow more dangerous, but that's just because of the state of science at this moment, and we expect them to become more secure in the future?
I can't speak whether they're more dangerous or not. I just can say that there will always be risks using such technologies, and we have to be aware of it when we start using them. I'm not sure if they're more dangerous or not, but I do believe there is a very big potential of these technologies to really make our lives easier and also better.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And, you know, as someone somebody who is passionate about technology, I can say that I'm very fascinated about artificial intelligence and blockchain as well, but that's another debate. And I think that those two technologies will definitely change our lives and hopefully for better. But now, do you think that legislation could be a good way to tackle some of the issues? And if yes, to what extent?
Sorry, can you repeat the question because you stopped for a second?
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. So do you think that legislation is a good way to tackle some of the issues we have just discussed and you mentioned previously? And if yes, to what extent?
I definitely agree legislation is needed, especially now that more human-like robots are emerging and this technology is really advancing. I think government, scientists, engineers, and industry, they should all work together to form some sort of guidelines or a structural network, and they should definitely work towards legislation. I think that could really help to incorporate AI into everyday life. And it will make us, as I said, more trusting towards the technology when we know that there is rules in place. But I think it could be done in a more of a way of collaboration between different institutions. And that could really help us not only to create AI, but also to maintain it and to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
I see. Thank you very much for your response. And do you think that there is a need to set up some sort of common standards across the globe when it comes to development of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I definitely agree that this will be a good idea, especially when it comes to the quality of the products. There should really be assessment of quality and a common standard, although I understand that could be very difficult across different countries or continents because they have their own legislations and things are already quite different in the US compared to Europe or the rest of the world, where legislation are less strict. Yeah, I think in the end of the day, what would be ideal is to have some sort of panel of AI experts to set guidelines and rules for a common standard and quality of the AI that is being produced in order to make sure that it is legislated properly.
I see. And what's your point of view? Do you think that data protection legislation has some impact when it comes to AI development?
I think it could in some areas where you really need access to the data. So in some areas like that, this could restrict the development of AI. But I believe that scientists and engineers are creative, so they can find ways to find new ways to achieve what they want without disturbing this data protection regulation.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's indeed a very interesting topic because you know about competition between different continents and different countries when it comes to AI development, and we are all excited to see who is going to win. Now, jokes aside, now I would like to ask you, how do you see the next developments in the field of artificial intelligence?
I'm very excited. I think there's a lot of space, especially I'm going to talk from my point of view in my field. I think there's going to be a huge development in the brain to computer interfaces, which it hasn't happened so far. But if you've read recently in the news, there has been some really interesting developments where these interfaces are actually being implanted in the brain and working, and we can actually decode some of the information from the brain into a computer, which is very exciting. And this could be used I'm again going to give you I'm going to give you an example with the spinal cord injury field, where you can implant an electrode in the human brain, which detects the signals, and then that could move a robotic arm in a patient with spinal cord injury who cannot move their arms, and they can get themselves a drink using this robotic arm just by thinking about it and by using their brain to initiate this reaction. So I think there are some absolutely incredible advancements, especially in the scientific field and in the neuroscience field, which I'm very excited about. And I think there will be artificial intelligence only has been around for several years, and we already can do so much with it. So I'm really excited to see what's to come.
Yes, I see that you are very much driven by your passion in the in the field of healthcare, and you are very well informed about the developments in that field. So I would like to ask you, how accurate are actually AI predictions in terms of healthcare diseases? Do you have some data that you could share with us, or have you experienced that in your research so far?
I haven't personally worked with artificial intelligence when it comes to my data yet, but I know a lot of my colleagues are. And when you use it for day-to-day tasks, just in terms of making logical predictions, and for data analysis, it could be very accurate. And I think I mentioned to you the breast cancer trial where the artificial intelligence was actually more accurate at detecting breast cancer than the doctors themselves in some cases. So I think in terms of the accuracy of the system, when it comes to more simplistic tasks that rely on logic and analyzing big amounts of data, the AI is actually very accurate.
Wow, that sounds exciting. But is it fair to say that the future of healthcare is in artificial intelligence and in technology overall? It seems like doctors would be very much helped or advised themselves by AI-powered machines.
Yeah, I'm very much for such future. I hope that AI is heavily involved in healthcare, and that could give more space for doctors to engage on a more meaningful level with patients, and also to be more productive and efficient at what they do. And I do think that in a dream future, some sort of a system where AI and doctors work together and feed off one another could be really helpful for not only for patients but also for doctors themselves to reduce stress levels, get better work-life balance, and just to make the medical profession more accessible, I think.
Okay, but just to make clear, what does it mean more accessible? In terms of you need to go to school for 10 years, now you can just...
No. I just mean like that more people have access to healthcare because doctors will be more free and yeah.
Yes, okay, that totally makes sense. And continuing on that positive note, may I ask you, what will be the most important human problems that will eventually be solved thanks to artificial intelligence, according to you? What's your prediction now?
My prediction would be that we'll be able to find cure for a lot of diseases that we don't know much about at the moment, especially diseases connected to the brain, because these are some of our most outstanding challenges, such as dementia, which affects, if I'm not wrong, I think 1 in 4 people over the age of 80, so quite a substantial amount of people. And I think with these predictions and data analysis, we could it could really help us identify and cure diseases that are at the moment incurable. But also, as I said, for me, I think the alleviation of poverty and the better education are also very high up there. But for me, the most exciting part is being able to find a cure for diseases. And one thing which I actually forgot to mention, but just came to mind is, I'm not sure if you know about the Human Genome Project, but this is a project that started in the 2000s, which aimed at basically sequencing all genes in the humans, which has now been mostly done. And there is huge amount of data that we don't understand. And I think AI will really help us get deep down into our genes and understand more about who we are and what genes are important, and also, like, again, genes are linked to diseases, again, feeding into the disease areas.
Wow, that goes so far, really
Yep.
very far. I think we are just at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just at the beginning of exploring what are the capabilities of artificial intelligence and how it can eventually improve our lives, and why not even make human lives longer?
Yeah,
Perhaps
maybe. Yeah.
that will be possible one day. And as a scientist, could you please share with us, how do you cooperate with your colleagues around the globe? Is it a platform where you share experience, where you share your opinions? And could we just say that there is a scientific community out there working on artificial intelligence, or it is very much country-based or regions-based? I think it will be interesting for us and for BGS members, because as I mentioned, our members are based all over the world. And I think it will be interesting to know how are our respective scientific communities contributing to research in the field.
So in terms of my area of expertise, we do collaborate with scientists all over the world, from the US to Australia to China and Japan. And these collaborations are very successful, and we basically share a lot of data. We work on projects together, and the outcomes are really good. In terms of AI, I'm not like personally involved in it, but I do believe that there is huge collaborations around the globe as well. And a lot of the time when papers are published, they require you to share your code, and they're quite transparent so other people can use it. And I think this is really good in science, because you might have missed something that someone else would pick up on, and that really helps science advancing. I'd hope to see even more collaborations of scientists across the world, because I believe this is one of the most important aspects of our job. Because to be honest, when I talk to others and when I share my ideas is when I get the most inspiration and the most new ideas. So I think this is the best way to create advancement of science.
Yes, I completely agree with you, and I very much hope you will get there.
Yeah, thanks.
And trust scientific community. So let's see what will happen in the future. And now, as a main takeaway, just to make sure that all of our members got it. What's artificial intelligence, and what are the main characteristics of it? Could you please give us perhaps 3 of the most important characteristics of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, well, artificial intelligence is a computer system which is capable of intelligent behavior. I believe that it could help us advance healthcare, economics, education, and alleviate poverty around the world. And for me, the most exciting area about artificial intelligence is its intersection with neuroscience and helping us understand more about the brain.
Thank you so much. I think that was great. I hope that our members will watch our video and will learn how important is artificial intelligence in terms of solving some of the main problems of humanity. Me personally, I'm very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to see what are the future advancements in the field. Would you like to share with us something else, perhaps your projects for the future or any other ideas before closing our talk?
Yeah, as you said, I'm going to the US in 2 weeks to start a new project at Harvard University, where I will be working on peripheral neuropathies. So basically, these are diseases where the nerves connecting the brain to the limbs decay, and basically people get very severe motor phenotypes. So I will be trying to testing a lot of various drugs for these conditions. And I think I might even be able to collaborate with some researchers from MIT to create smarter algorithms to analyze my data. So I think that could be my first real use of AI connected with my projects. But I'm very excited to learn more about it and to actually collaborate with engineers and others in that field.
Yes. You know, as much as I respect these institutions, Harvard and MIT and Cambridge, of course, I should say that you should definitely spend some time at Berkeley University as well. California is one of the most exciting places in terms of new technologies. You know better than me, perhaps. So, basically, thank you so much for your time. It was great speaking with you. I learned a lot.
Thank you for the invite. Yeah, it was great fun.
And you're welcome to share with us, you know, your future ideas in the field of artificial intelligence or whatever you do. We at Berkeley Global Society very much appreciate your time, your participation in the BGS talks.